Now, some of you, not all of you, but some of you probably thought like I thought, that once Al Ewing was done writing X-Men Red number 18 at the end of the series, that he was done with the X-Men. But then you, like me, would be wrong, because he killed Magneto, and now it's time to bring him back. My name is Dorian, this is SCM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of House of X with Resurrection of Magneto number 1. So our story starts off with Magneto just kind of standing there in some kind of unknown place. And he says, Aurora, I was wrong. And we see 5 helmets around him. 3 of the helmets look like his normal helmets that he would wear. Some have blood coming out of them. One has like some kind of green goo. And then you have a white one and a black one that's just sitting there. And on the next page, you see that Storm is having a nightmare. She wakes up screaming, no. She also has lightning in her eyes, and then lightning starts to go everywhere. And we see that Craig Marshall is sleeping right next to her, and oh my goodness gracious. Now, I'm sure if Storm was a real person, she'd be one of the most beautiful women in the world. But oh my God, that is a dangerous girlfriend to have. So he grabs her, and he finally calms her down, and he didn't get electrocuted. I don't know how. And then out of nowhere, we see the orphan kids that Craig Marshall was trying to transport during the Genesis War in X-Men Red come out of nowhere. It's like, we heard a commotion. What needs to be killed? Those are my kind of kids. So the Craig Marshall's like, it's okay, kids. It was a nightmare. Go back to bed. And Storm's like, they're adorable. And Craig's like, don't tell them that. They'll think it's a challenge by insult. And then he's asking her, what was the nightmare about? Was it the big push against Orchis? And she was like, nah. It was something else. So now we switch to the Kadesh base. I think I pronounced that right. Which, for those of you guys who are not familiar with Blue Marvel, this is his base of operations, which is in the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean. He and Talia, I think I pronounced that right. I don't know. That's a lot of A's for a name that only got 5 letters. Anyway, she is the mother of Galen, who in the 6th Cosmos became Galactus once it became the 7th Cosmos. Long story, but yeah, she's the mother of Galactus. And they were warned by the one above all, yes, the one above all, that pretty much the Dominion or Enigma is going to take out Eternity. And if you take out Eternity, then you pretty much take out everything. And they're trying to figure out how Orchis and the Dominion are connected. Not really, they're not. I mean, besides, you know, Bargain Bin Sinister, they're really not connected. Anyway, their alarm starts to go off, and all you hear is, Dr. Adam Brashear, I have a long journey to make to parts unknown, and you've been my travel agent before. Storm walks in. So Galactus' mom act like she wants to throw down with Storm, which Adam Brashear had to calm her down and be like, hey, she's on her side. Pretty much he protected her from swooping. And so Storm's like, I'm glad to see you're on our side, Doctor. And Blue Marvel's like, oh, Orchis, they're everything I despise. And he would know, because he was a hero in the 50s and 60s, so he knows about bigotry, hatred, and discrimination. And trust me, we're going to cover Blue Marvel here on the channel in the future, because it's a crazy story. It's a really good one. So Blue Marvel pretty much lets her know that when it comes to the Defenders, they got the mutants back. So then Storm's like, good, so I need a favor. So Storm lays out to Blue Marvel exactly what she needs. And she felt like he was going to be like, that's impossible. There's no way. Instead, he considered it for a second, then nods his head as if he was going to go fix a shelf. Because again, if you're not familiar with Blue Marvel is up there with the smartest intellects in the universe. I mean, like, he's top 5. He even said, like, Reed or Doctor Strange would have been like, you know, that's impossible. He's like, I like to start with the impossible. So Storm's like, so are you sure you know exactly what you're going to be doing? And he's like, oh yeah, I got this. You need me to go to the mutant waiting room that Wanda Maximoff created for you guys when you die. I got it. So he takes this magical seed that Ensign Minor gave to Storm, and he puts it into his machine, and next thing you know, the door opens up and there's a gateway to the waiting room. So now Blue Marvel was like, all right, we need to go over safety protocols. And Storm's like, first off, I've been here before. It's not gonna involve, there is no safety protocols. And she just jumps and he's like, don't. So as she gets in there, she sees all kinds of crazy things. You see Mistress Death, or that looks like Mistress Death. You see the head of the Living Tribunal. Well, the 3 heads of the Living Tribunal. And guess who's waiting on her? Harn the Uncaring. He's like, Storm, welcome to the afterlife. So the Storm's like, what are you doing here? And Tara's like, am I not a mutant? Am I not dead? isn't this a place for when mutants die? That's why I'm here. So then Tarn's like, but what are you doing here? Because somehow he knows that she's not there through conditional means, in other words, dying. And she says she thought about lying, but then she decided not to, and she tells him, I'm here to get your killer. I'm here to save Magneto. So then he goes, you do see why I would take that as a direct insult and can't have that. And then he starts to transform. Now, for those of you who don't know who Tarn the Uncaring is, let me break down his powers, because it's kind of scary. He can manipulate DNA with his mind. That means if he likes you, he can give you more power. If he doesn't like you, he can depower you. He can also give you new powers if he wanted to. He can reverse aging, so I'm assuming he can do the same thing in the other way, so he can accelerate aging too. He's also a telepath, and he has superhuman strength, just as Vulcan. Trust me, Tarn is just like Wu-Tang Clan. Ain't nothing with him. So Storm is definitely familiar with Tarn's power. And one thing, besides using his power, Tarn loves to do is talk. So he's just talking away. And while he's talking, Storm is wondering why the hell he's not using his power on her, and why he's only using it on himself. And then she realizes that he can't. And Tarn, he isn't phased at all. He's like, I don't need to be able to use my power on you. I'll just use it on myself to devour you. After that, I'll come back to life, and then I'll really raise some havoc down there. So then instead of doing that, he's just monologuing again, because that's what he does. And Storm's like, he doesn't want me to notice something. And she looks down and realizes that he is standing on a cloud. And she's like, you know I'm a weather witch, right? And sends the biggest lightning bolt through Tarn, and pretty much he's done. Over. Finito. So as soon as she got rid of Tarn, her ancestor, a Sheikh, comes down. So she pretty much wants to know why Storm is there. And Storm is sitting there and she's thinking to herself, she's like, do I really tell her I'm here because of a dream? And I guess in that place, she can read her mind. And she's like, hey, dreams are how the gods pretty much talk to us. She says even eternity, a being that powerful, will use dreams to communicate with people. So she's like, all right, describe your dream and don't leave out any details, because details are very important when it comes to this. So Storm does. She pretty much describes the first page on the comic book, and then she's like, this is your friend, right? Is he worth it? So Storm pretty much tells her they always didn't see eye to eye. Actually, they didn't see eye to eye most of the time. But if he's in trouble and he's suffering, then yeah, he's worth it, and she needs to try. So the Storm's like, all right, it's time for me to ask some questions. Where the hell is everybody at? So then the Sheikh's like, I don't know where they went. I just know the direction that they went into. And she points to Mistress Death. So then Storm's like, well, they are truly lost there, because there's no escaping her. And all I'm thinking to myself is like, yeah, right. A lot of people come back from Mistress Death. But that's another story for another day. And even as Sheikh pretty much is on my side, she's like, look, I died 1,000 years ago, went to Mistress Death, but you see me here. So Sheikh's pretty much letting her know, look, there's no time to waste. We need to make a decision fast. And then she shows her how Blue Marvel and Galactus' mom is working on her, trying to bring her back to life. And Blue Marvel is screaming, breathe, Storm, breathe. So then the Sheikh points to this tower and tells her that's where you need to go. And then all of a sudden she's already in there. And then she's like, all right, there's only one direction to go now. And all of a sudden the tower blows up and Storm starts falling down. Now, as she's falling right next to the dominion of the Phalanx. And if I had to take a guess, because I did not read every single X book ever since the Krakoa era started, I'm guessing that this is the dominion that scared the original Nathaniel Essex into becoming Enigma. And the Phalanx Dominion is well aware of Enigma. It explains to Storm how the Beyonders were so scared of Enigma that they actually did the incursions to try to wipe out the multiverse. Unfortunately, it didn't work and it just continued on, so Enigma continued on too. So Storm is well aware how dangerous a Dominion is. So she also knows that it craves information, and asking questions kind of leads into that. But she also knows there's no getting around it, and she has to ask a question. So she does, and she asks, has Magneto come through this way? And the Dominion answers, yes. And the way it analyzed Magneto, it's pretty gruesome. It then said he was not viable / useful / enough information for assimilation / consumption. But then it looks at Storm and goes, you on the other hand, you are of greater interest, worthy, useful, consumable. And she don't even know if her powers will even work on the Dominion, but what other options does she have? So she raises her power level and goes, consume this, and hits it with lightning. So she doesn't even know if that did anything to it, but it does say pain, recalculating, and then hits her with some kind of beam that pretty much separates her different lives that she's lived throughout the year. And then she's thrown down, and then she gets up and she's in the same spot that Magneto was in when she saw him in the dream. And she has 5 tiaras on the ground in the same way that Magneto had 5 different helmets. And then she starts thinking to herself, whatever this place has done to Magneto, it's probably going to do worse to me. On the last page, we see Magneto looks like he's burning, but he's also surrounded by looks like the names of the victims from the Holocaust, and his eyes are bleeding and probably not there. This is gonna be crazy. So Magneto is judging himself for all the people that he has killed in his lifetime. The size of that list must be astronomical.
That's a huge bitch.
Huge list. Huge list. Let's not get demonetized. Don't you have to be monetized to be demonetized? You might be right. But don't get too big-headed, DC. A broken clock is right twice a day. My name is Dorian. This is SCM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of the House of X with Resurrection of Magneto number 2. So our story starts off just like the Little Mermaid, under the sea. Don't you play that song. My words are just fine. And we have a sea witch. Well, I'm not gonna lie, looks like a skinny Ursula. And she's saying, fraud, liar, thief of life. Do you have any idea what you've done? And we see Magneto wearing an air bubble, and Namor is struggling with some kind of little squid that's on his face. So Magneto is talking to the sea witch. The sea witch is talking to Magneto, and nobody is paying attention to Namor, who looks like he's about to die from this thing on his face. And all I'm thinking to myself is, where did I see this before?
Again, proactive missile at 54th and Madison. You're headed out of town. You're doing fine, Ace.
So the sea witch hands Magneto a key, and finally Magneto goes, can you release my companion, please? And she's like, let him suffocate. He's nothing in this place. Petty King in the shallows. I'm like, man, that's one cold heifer right there. So Magneto's like, even so, a promise was made and I won the game. She goes, you did win. Fine. Breathe again, Petty King, and say thank you to your rescuer. And Namor pulls the thing off and goes, foul hag. So then Magneto's like, he's giving me an island, and that's thanks enough. Thinking it's Island M, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's Island M. So then he goes, what does this key do? She goes, once you have it, you can never lose it, even in death, until the day is turned. All the same, keep guard of it, for it is the key for the door of judgment and purification. So Magneto asks, is it a door out or a door in? And the sea witch goes, turn in the sea. So now we cut to the place of judgment. Now in our last video, we didn't know exactly where that place was at. I'm thinking because he's Jewish and there was a list, I'm thinking it was like all the Jews from like the Holocaust. Obviously I was completely wrong. Now this is a list of all the people that have died by Magneto's hands, directly and indirectly. Now, not to get off topic, but the first bit of Marvel content that we made for this channel was Fatal Attractions. And in that, Magneto went to Asteroid M, and the world had Magneto protocols to where they developed this thing to go around the world to keep Magneto out. Well, he wasn't going to have that, and he got rid of it, but also caused like a huge like EMP that went around the world. So that event right there probably killed thousands of people. Thousands. It's a great story. If you're interested, the card's right there, and the link to the playlist will be in the description. So he says that he can feel the key. So he has a way out. He doesn't have to stay there, but he is going to stay there because he wants to judge himself for every single death. He's going to be there a while. So his eyes are gone. So he has to rub his hand over each name. Once he does that, he remembers who they are and how they died. Now we see Doug Ramsey, who is Cypher. Now some of you guys are saying, hold on, time out. Cypher's alive. Yes, he is, because this is comics. So you're going to die at least once. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a long time ago. When Cypher died, Magneto was in charge of the New Mutants. And Cypher got shot 2 times. Done. Over. So Storm shows up and Magneto's like, leave me. Now she sees that he's standing on looks like lava, so it's probably pretty hot. So she uses her power to like bring in some cool air to like cool him down. So he runs his fingers across Suzanne Dane. That is the mother of Polaris, his child. Now, some of you guys are like, oh, I know that story. And it wasn't Magneto who killed her, it was Polaris. You'd be right. We said directly and indirectly, that's his child, so he was at fault. So the Storm flies down and goes, when my friends call out to me, I come. You called, Max. I felt your pain and I answered. I'm here to save you if I can. What are you doing? So he runs his hand over the name Christopher Bosch. He was in charge of a group called Humans Now. It was like almost like a Friends of Humanity. And he paid this chick, I think Astra was her name, to make a clone of Magneto. His name was Joseph, because he wanted to strike fear into humans and to gain more followers. Just like your favorite social media personality. Magneto found out, stopped him, and eventually killed him by like burying him in all this like construction rubble or something like that. And he even explains at the Storm, he goes, he was a mutant hater with a scheme to make people fear me, as if they weren't already. Many people died. I've counted their names. In the end, I dropped a few tons of rubble on him and his followers. And when Cyclops asked me what became of him, I lied and said I didn't know. I regret to lie. Storm goes, Max, there are thousands of names on this wall, and there are dozens of walls in this city of judgment. Did they all die by your hands? And Magneto goes, by my hands or in my name, by actions or inactions, by intent or by accident. Those I regret and those I don't. They all count. And then he goes, and they all must be counted. I've been here for some time. I've almost read every name. My choice to acknowledge the full weight of Magneto upon the world, the blood that I simply accept. To save one life is to save the world, my teacher said. Now you see my great work. Do you honestly think I should return to the world? Haven't I done enough? And he goes, leave me, Aurora, or you should add another name to the tally. So she goes, are you threatening me? And he goes, I'm trying to protect the life you still have. Now go. I'm done with the world. And he takes his, guessing, metal bust of himself and throws it at her. So she breaks it easily with lightning. And she goes, the world is not done with you yet. But if this is truly what you want, I'm sorry. I know Krakoa couldn't bring your daughter back. Now she's talking about his first daughter that he lost during the Holocaust. And he goes, yes, that last failure was a final straw. But the truth, Aurora, the great Magneto, hero of Krakoa, he was already broken. So then he starts to explain how when they made the Quiet Council and they came up with these laws were more for poetry than they were for people, but they enforced these laws. Sabretooth was one of the victims of these laws, but other people also suffered the fate too. And Storm's like, I know, I did the same thing to Vulcan on Araco, as after Tarn murked his ass, but yeah, she did do the same thing. And then he got told his ride or die, pretty much through thick and thin with the Brotherhood of New Mutants. Took the fall for him when it came to the death of Wanda, and he got dragged down to the pits. So then he's like, so do you still feel my pain? Do you still want me back? So the Storm's like, I would like to talk to Wanda about it. So he gets pissed and goes, don't you dare put that on her. The fault is mine. Wanda, all she could do once I got things in motion is risk the waiting room's existence. Thunderbird and thousands like him are alive from her work and Toad's sacrifice. So then she starts screaming at him and starts letting him know that you're closer to Charles than you care to admit. And then Magneto goes, wait, something happened to Charles? So she tells him everything that happened at the gala and everything that's been going on since he's been dead with Orchis. And she just goes, I told you to watch him. So he gets really pissed and he takes all the names that are in metal and he just starts slinging it at her. And she has to do what she can to kind of push it away with her wind powers. And this is just my self-analysis. He's pissed at Storm, but really he's more pissed at himself, because he knew this can happen to Charles, yet and still he really didn't do anything. You know, he left Krakoa, went to Araco, so he was away from Charles then he died. So then he was really away from Charles and he wasn't there to help him. He could have maybe prevented this, but who knows? But yeah, that's why I feel like he's pissed. So then he gets to his name and he calms out a little bit, but you know, he's just hurting and he just falls to his knees. So our Storm's like, look, you need to calm down. There's something you need to see. And she uses her magic to bring back his eyes. And we see that there's also a wall of all the people that he saved. Like the saying goes, you gotta take the good with the bad. Now, it's not nearly the size of the wall of the people that he killed. But again, you gotta take the good with the bad. So then he starts to finally realize that he is needed. that Charles needs him, Storm needs him, the mutants need him. So now he's ready to come back. So he takes the key out of his pocket and now he's ready to turn it. So he does, and it opens up a hole in the floor and they both fall into it. So then all of a sudden they're in complete darkness, and then there's ominous laugh. And it goes, "Look at you both, weather witch, restless and rootless as the breeze. Have you found a home now? Have you found joy and community? You will turn your back on it, Aurora Monroe, as you turn your back on everything you love, save for the ex that does not love you back. And then you, the wounded king, who abandoned the world but won't let it go on without him. Do you really think you can lay your ghost to rest, Max, or is it Eric, or Magnus? And you shed your crimes as easily as you shed your many names." And on the last page, he continues to talk and goes, "Oh, my dear Magneto, you might as well be fighting your own shadow." As we see, it is the Shadow King. Now, Shadow King has more history with Storm than he does with Magneto. But yeah, this is not good, because the Shadow King is really strong in our dimension. But when he's in his dimension, he's like Mephisto or like Dormammu. He's damn near unstoppable. So yes, I was right from the last issue. Our heroes are dealing with the Shadow King. I am an old X-Men fan, so it's still kind of hard for me to refer to Magneto as a hero, even though it's been going on for quite some time now, but I digress. Also, there are some beings that you don't want to tangle with outside of their dimension or their realm, but you definitely don't want to tangle with them inside their realm, i.e. Dormammu, Mephisto. Yes, I know some people think he's a clown. He's strong as hell when he's in hell. And the Shadow King. They're in a rock and a hard place. For those of you guys who don't know like the literal definition of a rock and a hard place, it's two equally difficult alternatives. You could try to run, but where you going? You're at the mercy of the Shadow King. They could try to fight, but again, he's significantly stronger in the Shadow Realm than he is anywhere else. So you're probably gonna lose, so you're at the mercy of the Shadow King. So what are these two gonna do? You're about to find out. My name is Dorian, this is SEO Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of the House of X with the resurrection of Magneto. Number 3. So our story starts off with Storm having to face down the Annihilation mask. It used to be the staff. It used to be a staff. Now I guess it's a mask. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Annihilation was in X-Men Red, and Storm had to face Annihilation when Genesis had Annihilation. She defeated it. It used to be a staff. She melted down with lightning. Now in the Shadow Realm, I guess it's just a mask. If you want to learn more about that, cards right there. Link will be in the playlist to X-Men Red. So the mask pretty much goes to Storm and says, "Aurora, did you honestly think we were done?" So as I was reading this, all I'm thinking to myself is Storm's probably like, "Yeah, I thought we were done. Did you see how bad I defeated you?" Everybody want to talk about John 3:16. Well, Storm 3:16 says, "I just melted your ass." That worked for Stone Cold. He sold like millions of t-shirts. You think I sold millions of t-shirts saying Storm 3:16? Let me know in the comments. So Storm's like, "Where'd you take Max?" And Annihilation is like, "Far away." Answer the question. Storm goes, "Yes, I thought we were done. I ended you when I ended the Genesis War." So Storm was pretty much saying that she pretty much
"Stop a butthole in your ass and walk it dry."
So Annihilation's like, "You melted some gold. You destroyed the physical form that I took in the physical space, but I'm much more difficult to dispose of than that." So Storm's like, "It's funny you said that, because when we got here, another spoke to me, an evil that the X-Men know all too well. We knew him as the Shadow King." And then he takes off the mask. And the Shadow King goes, "Huh, so Annihilation was truly just a mask. Or the Shadow King is a figment of Annihilation. Perhaps you're thinking too small, Wind Rider." There goes the games. So when we turn the page, we see that Shadow King might be an aspect, or he might be aspects of all these characters, and there are some heavy hitters here. Heavy hitters. The fiery looking creature is La Bête Noire. I believe it only appeared in one comic book, and that was Gambit per Bishop in the early 2000s. He gave him issues, but you know, they was able to handle him. The Native American looking dude, I'm not gonna lie, I almost said the dreaded I word a whole bunch of times recording this, but he is Adversary. Now he is like old, I'm talking about like comic book form. He was like a Chris Claremont creation. So he's like early 1980s. Now the Egyptian looking dude is the first Fallen. I remember reading that Uncanny X-Men book that was like mid 2000s. Yeah, he gave all kinds of fits. And the shadowy creature behind him is probably the one I would be most worried about. That is the Goblin Force. The Goblin Force is like the Phoenix Force, but let me tell you, Goblin Force actually beat the Phoenix Force. It beat Galactus. It took the 5th host, which is a big old celestial, to finally take it down, and it didn't kill it, it just contained it. So yeah, Goblin Force is all kinds of problems. And so Annihilation asks again, so are we done? And Storm goes, no, I guess we're not done. And she starts powering up. And can I say, in this comic, man, they got Storm's ab muscles jumping. I'm like, holy crap. And before you guys start talking about, he's talking about imaginary character, how many people will talk about X-Men 97 and Rogue's ass? So I don't want to hear it. I'm just saying, when it comes to this comic book, I'm like Bertie Mac.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
So she's taking on all these different aspects, which I said, a lot of these are some heavy hitters. So, I mean, how much can she really do? But what else she gonna do? She gotta fight. And while that's going on, you got Eric and it looks like Professor Xavier, but we all know it's the Shadow King, pretty much watching it. And Professor Xavier goes, man, she would have been a really good evil mutant. And Magneto's like, she wouldn't have put up with me back then. And besides, you can drop the facade, Shadow King, I know it's you. So Shadow King's like, you're trying to tell me with all you learn about Charles Xavier, there is no shadow in him? And Magneto doesn't even bat an eyelash. He goes, Charles is a good man. And then the Shadow King's like, we must beware of good men. So is that why you called your faction Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? Then Magneto brings up a pretty good point. He goes, I explained this 100 times. The oppressor applies the label. We are evil just for existing. Thus, all other evils can be imagined must apply. So now the Shadow King is looking like Professor Xavier in a hover chair, and he goes, yeah, you're always making points. But let's face it, you just wanted to create fear. Isn't that right, Eric? And he goes, stop calling me that. You're not Charles. So now he's Charles Xavier, but now he's in the classic wheelchair. And he goes, yeah, but you met him as Eric Lyncher, but you want to be Max now, right? I guess this is your way to try to drop all the masks. But let's face it, there's one mask that you can't drop. What's really in your heart? What do you call yourself? And Eric goes, Magneto. And the Shadow King turns into the old Magneto and starts riding the Raven. He goes, the human race no longer deserves dominance over the planet. The day of mutants is upon us. First phase of my plan is to show my power and to make Homo sapiens bow to Homo superiors. So while that's going on, Storm is fighting all these aspects by herself. And the Shadow King's like, look at you, Aurora, whose name means beauty. So powerful, so perfect, don't ever change. And the first Fallen pretty much puts her into like this crystallized state. So as she's standing there frozen, she doubts herself for a split second. But then she breaks out and she goes, no, I will not be caged, demon, by you nor by anyone else. So the Shadow King's like, really? Not even yourself? Will you even have a choice? So out of nowhere, the Annihilation Mask appears on Storm and it's like, you wouldn't listen to me in your own reality, but you're in my house. Now it's just you and me, and it's my turn to speak. I misread you last time we spoke. You couldn't listen then. Your responsibilities wouldn't permit you. You bounce around from responsibility to responsibility like a butterfly bounces to flower to flower. You're like a magician, just spinning plates. Can a Rocco be free if you're not there to free it? Can Earth have a voice if you're not there to voice it? Can evil be fought if you're not there to fight it? Can the world go on without Aurora Moreau? So she finally gets the mask off and the Shadow King goes, how many times do you save the world, Aurora? How many times have the X-Men saved the universe because you were there? So now he looks like Professor Xavier to Storm, and she pretty much says the same thing Magneto says. She's like, look, I know you're not Professor Xavier, and it's pretty much being disrespectful to the people who you're taking these forms of. And then she adds, so are you just claiming to be all the X-Men villains that we ever fought? And he's like, no, I can't take that credit. So we are broken into categories. Speaking of categories, Max, That's a man that has categories. And speaking of Max, he's still arguing with himself. So the younger Magneto's pretty much telling the older Magneto, remember, we are homo superiors. We are born to rule the earth. The humans must be our slaves. And the older Magneto's like, you don't need to shame me with my own words. Remember, I said them. And then younger Magneto's like, how dare you say that in my presence? Have you forgotten the personal feelings are nothing? It is the plan that is all important. And older Magneto's like, oh yes, the plan. My great scheme to give humanity a single target to focus on. Yes, I remember telling myself exactly that. That Charles's cure would not tempt the humans to justice without an imposing stick. Magneto will be that iron rod to beat sense into the humans, and if necessary, into Charles and his students. And how quickly it became necessary. Charles once told me that humans and mutants could create a golden age on Earth if they could only work side by side. I forget my exact response to that particular utopian notion, but I bet you remember. Never. The humans must be our slaves. They are not worthy to share dominion over this earth with us. You have made your choice. Forevermore, we are mortal foes. Yes, I made my choice to reject Charles, and later, to reject you. But to live is to learn, and perhaps having learned, to choose again. I see you, Magneto, and there is still a place for us on this broken land. So pretty much Magneto is doing what we all wish we can do. He's talking to his younger self, who thought he knew everything, he had the world figured out. But really, he knew nothing. And since he knew nothing, he made mistake after mistake after mistake. But as long as you learn from the mistakes, then you can become a better person. Magneto has become a better person, and now that's pissing off the Shadow King. So then the Shadow King asks Storm, what's your choice? You can accept me as just being part of the human condition and go about your way, or you can battle me, which makes somewhat sense. You might want to take me out, especially because you got to deal with some other people like Enigma and Orcus. But if you are going to do it, you're going to do it alone. So then Storm just sits there with her perfect ab muscles, and she contemplates for a second. And she goes, I'm an X-Men, Shadow King. I'm never alone. And she reaches out her hand, and it's grabbed by Magneto. And they use the same move that they used on Uranus to take him out, because he was taking out everybody. Where Storm feeds her power into Magneto to boost him up so that he can give a blast to stop him. But it's at a cost, because Storm pretty much used her life energy to feed into Magneto to stop the Shadow King. So now she's about to pass away. Magneto ain't having it. He's like, there's not going to be one more person to die in my name. And he uses his life energy to pretty much help Storm out. Plus also too, on the other side, you got Blue Marvel and Galactus's mom pretty much hitting her with these cosmic paddles to bring her back to life. And it works. And Blue Marvel's pretty much looking at her like, you lucky you beautiful. You lucky I drink your bath water. Otherwise, we'll be having a more serious conversation here. But then Storm's like, hey, there's somebody else coming through the portal. And who is it? Well, it's Magneto. He used the key again. And this time, instead of taking to the Shadow Realm, he comes back to the real world. And he looks young as hell. Why is he looking younger? I have no idea. All I know is we got one more issue left in this, and maybe, hopefully, Storm and Magneto could get on the Orcus killing bandwagon. Now, I'm not the biggest X-Men fan out there. There was actually a time, a decent stretch of time, where I wasn't even reading comic books at all. But I read enough X-Men stories to know a little bit of something about Magneto. Now, I will definitely concede to a lot of you guys who probably read more X-Men than me. But when I tell you that Magneto kills these people in a way that I have never seen before, I mean, I have never seen before. And I hate to say it, but it is fantastic. My name is Dorian. This is SCM Comics. We are continuing our coverage of the Fall of the House of X, and we are concluding our coverage of the resurrection of Magneto with number 4. So our story starts off with Magneto in a Orcus gulag, and he has 3 helmets: a white helmet, a black helmet, and a red helmet. And he's considering which one he should put on, as he's stopping the bullets that Orcus is shooting at him. They're shooting metal bullets at the Master of Magnetism, which normally I would say, oh, that's dumb, but what the hell else are they going to do? I mean, they got to defend themselves, right? So the black helmet, I guess, represents the very old Magneto, you know, the real angry one. The white one is him more or less as he was in Krakoa. And then the red one's kind of like an in-between of both. Now, he's using these helmets since he can't decide which one to put on. He was beat up these Orcus agents. Like, he's literally like throwing these helmets around and hitting them with it. And he hit the one Orcus agent with the helmet in the face. And he's like, look, see, I didn't even break his jaw. That's progress. But then he quickly realizes that progress isn't really getting him anywhere. So he takes his big heavy door and slams it into that same Orcus agent. So now he got more than a broken jaw. And then he takes the guns away from the other Orcus agents and he turns it to him just like he did in the movie. And he's like, so what do? Do I take him out? Or do I be lenient on him? And then he just takes the guns, turns around, and then buckstrokes the hell out of both of them. Now, before that dude got slammed by the door, he was talking about how they was calling in Squad Zero and how it was going to be over for Magneto. So they actually just show up and they just kind of materialize. So you know there's something a little different about these guys. Now Magneto's like, I'm gonna hold off attacking them because, like I said, there's something different about them. And plus also too, they're bad guys. What do bad guys always do? They always start to talk and they literally tell what advantage they have over the hero. So now the hero knows how to counteract it. I mean, it's stupid. So one of them's like, come on, Magneto, attack us. Magneto's like, nah, I'll hold off. And he pulls in his force field tighter and the dude shoots at him and the force field barely stops the bullet. So again, there's something different about these guys. So then the dude starts saying, come on, you're supposed to be our new god. Smite me, strike me down. And then he starts blabbing his whole scheme, how their suits are electrically wired to that if Magneto attacks them, then it'll release a nerve gas and start killing the prisoners that are in there, which are mutants. So some of these mutants, they're watching the whole thing goes down and they start freaking out saying, oh my god. But there's one mutant that's in there, it's like, nah, it's gonna be okay. That's Magneto and he's back. So then as he's thinking about it, again, he has the 3 helmets. Black helmet's where he used to be, where he would have killed these men in a moment's notice and not even worry about it. The white helmet is when he was with Charles and he kind of got away from killing. The red helmet, he's sitting there, he's like, but these are hypotheticals. When all boils down to it, I just need to do this my way. So it's like there's no time for finesse. It'll be too slow. He just has to react. Let me read what it says. There is a sudden sound of every metal component inside the suit, every wire, every circuit, rushing down into 5 small, dense cores. Process ignores the 5 bodies inside the suits. Sounds wet. I've seen this man kill a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but this one takes the cake. I mean, he turned them into spears with their suit. I mean, the blood's just dripping down. It is gruesome. And I loved it. I'm not gonna lie. I loved every minute. I was at work, I was like, oh my God. And I wanted to tell somebody about it, but nobody at work reads comics. And he starts freeing all the mutants and they start cheering and chanting his name. And he's like, can't feed into it. Like, he's trying to walk a line where he doesn't get too good to where he becomes weak. But he's also not trying to be too bad where, you know, he's like a mass murderer. Even though he took out those 5 guys, but he killed 5 to save 1,000. You got to do the math. So he gets the free mutants and the Orcus agents that are still alive up to the top of the gulag, which is in the middle of the ocean, and Blue Marvel and Storm is waiting on him. So Storm's like, is that everyone? And Magneto goes, everyone who survived. The look that Storm is giving Magneto, my mom used to give me that look and it used to scare the bejesus out of me. Like, let me just give a little bit of advice, you know. I'm up here in age, so hopefully I can help you young guys out. If your girlfriend or wife gives you that look, just apologize. Don't try to fight. Just apologize. Like, Magneto's looking at her and he had to be in his head like,
it was at this moment he knew he fucked up.
So then Blue Marvel finally breaks the tension and goes, evacuation complete. I'll go ahead and I'll strip mine all the data systems. Would you guys like to do the pleasure? So Magneto's like, oh, I got this. And he turns that gulag into scrap metal in seconds. I mean, no time at all. And as soon as he did it, all you hear is mutant detected. And there's a Stark Sentinel headed right for him. So the Blue Marvel's like, a Stark Sentinel, the most advanced mutant killer yet. Another job well done, Tony. So the Magneto's looking at Blue Marvel. He's thinking to himself, you don't trust the Avengers either, huh? And that, we have a lot in common. But then even Magneto is like, but this isn't Tony's fault. They pretty much took everything, including his name, and turned it into this. So again, that wasn't Tony's fault. So this is the first time that Storm is fighting a Stark Sentinel. And she's like, oh, it's not ready for me. And she hits him with all kinds of lightning. He took it and goes, no, we do got countermeasures. And he deploys like these sonics that pretty much hit Storm, and she is pretty much out of commission. Because even Magneto's like, she might be on mecha level mutant, but she has human ears. So then Blue Marvel comes in and is like, you don't got no countermeasures for me because I'm not a mutant. And the Stark Sentinel goes, assumption false. Human mutate detected, Adam Brashear deploying countermeasures and hits him with a blast. And Blue Marvel was like, damn it, that's neutronium radiation, which I guess affects Blue Marvel. So it hurt, slowed him down, but didn't stop him, and he was still able to hit the Stark Sentinel with a blast. So then Magneto's sitting there, and he all of a sudden hears people screaming that, hey, it's Magneto, he's alive. And it's these reporters, and they're in his ship. So then the Stark Sentinel sees him and goes, unauthorized humans detected, preparing countermeasures. And the reporter's like, hold on, time out, they're not supposed to attack us, they're not allowed to. And Magneto's like, they can rewrite anything. So he gets right to it. He starts getting all this scrap metal from the Orchis Gulag together and makes two big old fists and goes at the Stark Sentinel. So he starts hammering away at the Stark Sentinel, which gives Storm enough time to recover from that sonic blast. So then the Stark Sentinel tries to do the sonic blast again, but Blue Marvel neutralizes it with his power. So the Magneto takes two metal rods. He goes to Blue Marvel and Storm and he goes, I want to try this. Storm's like, this can kill you. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not scared to death. You should know that by now. But this time we're going to make sure that you're okay, because Blue Marvel, while Storm feeds into Magneto, Blue Marvel is going to feed into Storm. And then Magneto thinks to himself, humans and mutants working together. If only Charles could see this. So then he gets supercharged and he just starts hitting the Sentinel. I mean, hitting him and hitting him. He's hitting him like Manny Pacquiao. The punches are coming from everywhere. So he hits him until there's a crack in the Sentinel's face, and then Storm and Blue Marvel uses their power, sends a blast right to that crack, and pretty much explodes the Sentinel. So then Magneto's like, there was some metal in there. And he grabs it with his power and he goes, I'll analyze it and maybe we can bring down that Sentinel a little bit easier next time. Blue Marvel's like, well, we need to get these people out of here, because if we have trouble with one, we're probably going to have a whole lot of trouble with 5, and they'll probably send 5 here right now. So then Storm's like, oh, my head. And Magneto's like, you okay? And Storm's like, it's Emma. She's been trying to talk to you, but you got your helmet on. She wants you to rescue her husband if you wouldn't mind. And Magneto goes, I wouldn't mind at all. Because to save one life is to save the world, my teacher used to say. So now, unfortunately, this is where this story ends, but it continues in Iron Man number 18. I haven't been covering Iron Man, so now we're going to have to pick up Iron Man number 18. So then we're going to have to backtrack and cover all of Iron Man, which we're doing with all of X-Men Red, and we're doing the same thing with Immortal X-Men. We covered 8 books of it. We're going to cover the rest of them too. So all that's going to happen, because I want you guys to have a complete playlist of all this stuff. So yes, Resurrection Magneto's over, but we're going to continue this in Iron Man number 18.